likes me. Nobody likes me. But that's okay, because I don't like y'all anyway. And I don't like y'all anyway.
We need to pay attention to all this stuff. And don't muddy the waters. Don't let your mind get sidetracked. Because you need to remember that when, it's going to be time to vote again soon. So it's going to be local elections, all this stuff, everything, all these elections. You have to remember that the Republicans would rather collude with Russians than collude with Americans.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Donald Trump is a white supremacist who enables white supremacists. No lie. I mean, that's accurate. It's an accurate assessment of the situation.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Dragnets. How do they work? Just say no. Yeah. Here's the problem with just saying no. You can go about your life trying not to do drugs, but you turn on the news and you see Wigmaster over there talking about public health emergencies. That's why drugs are hard to stop. Because of people like that. Big week. It's always a big week. Can't we please have an uneventful week? That's all I want. All I want is one.
Them Staten Island niggas still puffing them dust blunt.
Oh, Jay, why are you wearing that resist shirt? What are you resisting? Bunch of isms and trees. Bigotry, misogyny, racism, fascism, and sexism. The people here are the people on the South Shore, in the rich neighborhoods, the richer neighborhoods, not the poor neighborhoods, are brought up on bigotry, hatred, and classification of, societal roles. Hey, yo! Who's in your house? Dyze in your house. What up, peeps? Jay Porks here, coming to you live on East Coast Radio. Spoiler, it's not actually live. But it is coming to you on East Coast Radio, a midweek edition of Dyze in your house. This does not affect our Friday edition of Dyze in your house. This is just because I love you guys, and I just want to hit you with something a little extra. And something a little... This is the bridge from Jay Porks Podcast to Jay Porks Podcast. The things that were not able to be touched upon on the brand new episode of the Jay Porks Podcast, which just came out minutes ago. Well, we've got some stuff for you here. Now, this is a surprise to everybody, but I just want to talk about something that's not fascism for a second. Here at Dyze in Your House, if we are advocates for anything, it is being advocates for the recreational use of a certain plant that God left here on earth that has never killed anybody. When the ball dropped, and it was 12 o'clock in California, California became yet another state to move into the future, another state to get with the times, and to become a state that allows the purchase of marijuana for the uses of recreation. It's not just you're gonna die tomorrow, so they'll let you smoke pot today. It is not that. California, they've got it. Much like Colorado, Washington, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, D.C. Following in the footsteps is California. Now, my thing was, I was really wondering. I was like, they were making such a big deal about, did you know pot's legal in California? First of all, pot's technically been legal in California since 1996. Okay? California, if there's been any state that's been the most lax about getting marijuana, it's been California. I understand that the medical dispensaries get shut down all the time back a couple of years ago. These are different times, these are different laws, and recreational marijuana is now readily available for recreational sales in California. Now, people were making a big deal out of this, and I was wondering why it's such a big deal, because these other states have had it already. It's not like California is the first state to have it. I've technically purchased marijuana legally in a store in Colorado in 2014. So, I mean, we all knew. I mean, I knew that California was going to be a state moving in the direction of recreational. And I'm glad that they, that they did it. And now states, the licenses, people are applying for licenses. That, stores aren't selling it right this second, to my knowledge. I believe that there are, licenses and applications that need to be filed from, businesses, people that want to do the business, people that want to open up businesses. The thing is, they weren't accepting those applications until the ball dropped and 2017 turned to 2018. So that's why the rollout is not, as it's not right this second pot readily available in every city in California. That's not the case. But what this does do is that is the state with the largest population so far to legalize recreational marijuana. And that's good for states like, New York, cities like Philadelphia, states like New Jersey, places that are metropolises, places that have high volume of people. See, because my thing was, if you're going to legalize recreational marijuana in New York City, there's so many people here, there's so many criminals here. I mean, it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very hard to get that system in a place where, we're going to have the least amount of crimes committed against the new laws that would that would allow people to buy marijuana recreationally. Right, so, but California doing it is a big step. It's a big step, and it helps me personally. I don't think New York is any closer to recreational marijuana. Now, notice I'm saying recreational because I don't have cancer. Listen, fuck cancer, alright? Cancer sucks. I don't want people to die. That being said, people that are going to die have easy access to marijuana. And I think that should be the case for all responsible adults. And I think that if you can go to a liquor store and destroy your liver and get on the road and cause an accident and kill a bunch of people and go home and drink a bottle of whiskey and beat your wife, I think it should be legal to smoke a plant that makes people want to watch cartoons and eat cereal. That's not science. That's just me looking at things objectively. Objectively is what I'm doing. So I saw Sean King tweet out. Sean King, formerly of the Daily News, former Daily News civil justice reporter. He said New York should follow, California's lead and fully legalize recreational. That's good. That's cool that you think that. And pass me whatever you were smoking before you thought that was a thing that could actually happen. If this was something that a state like New York was going to do, if this was something that a state like New York was moving towards, then they would be moving towards it. There is not one bill, there is not one congressman, there is not one politician in New York that is standing up and saying recreational marijuana should be legal. Not one politician in New York representing New York has said that. Not one. There was not one. Cuomo is in bed with the liquor industry. Big alcohol. De Blasio, who I like, for a lot of the things he did. De Blasio is decriminalized less than an ounce of marijuana so the cops can stop arresting people for less than an ounce of marijuana. That's cool story, bro. but that doesn't help me buy it in the store. Now, here's what you want to do. Because the argument is always, what about the children? Think of the children. I'm thinking of the children. And I think of the children when I want pot to be legal. Because pot being illegal makes it easier for children to go into their schools and go to people and buy marijuana illegally on the street and in school and in their neighborhoods. Now there are drug dealers in neighborhoods with flowers that God left here, that for some reason is illegal, and they're selling it. Now, as state by state legalizes recreational marijuana, the perception of marijuana becomes, okay, well, maybe if we stay informed and we stay educated on the topic, maybe, it's becoming a little bit more socially acceptable. But it becoming more socially acceptable and people understanding that marijuana is less dangerous than a lot of the other things there are in this world isn't good for a state that has, like New York City, where the black market is full of marijuana. So these kids, they see on the news that California legalized pot. They see the news anchors on CNN smoking pot in Colorado, which, by the way, is getting blown way out of proportion. And had I known that was on, I would have switched over from Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve to that. Another story for another day. But, let's just say a 14-year-old kid sees that marijuana is legal in California, and that 14-year-old kid thinks, oh, well, I guess there's nothing wrong. I guess it's not so bad. Maybe I should try it in a state where it's not legal. And then there's no checks and balances. There's no regulations. There's no doctors. There's no labs checking on the pesticide levels of these plants, checking on if they can get dengue. You can get dengue fever from pot. You have to be careful. Your pot needs to be taken care of. We want our pot coming from grow houses that are under the guise of professionals. We don't want our pot coming from corner boys in Midtown. We don't want that. We don't need that. That's not how you make it safer for the children, by putting it on the black market. If you put it in stores and you make 18 or 21, whatever the case may be, kids aren't going to get it. Or it's going to be harder for kids to get it. Oh, well, Jay, kids are just going to buy it for other kids. Then they're going to be selling it to them. Well, then that's why we need cops outside these marijuana shops to make sure that doesn't happen. Oh, Jay, well, when you were a kid, that's not fair. When you were a kid, would you want people to not sell you pot? Guess what? Laws are changing. I'm an adult now. If I, as an adult recreational cannabis user, want this to be legal, then I need to understand that kids under 21 cannot be smoking this plant, no questions asked. I understand I was smoking it when I was, 13 years old. I understand that. And that is the past. Things were different. As the kids in my class tell me, Mr. Jason, things were different in the 70s, okay? Yeah, that's what they tell, the 70s, that's what they tell me, these kids. No, but things were different. And things are different now. And we gotta keep this out of the hands of children. Because you know what? If we're gonna have a life of adults smoking pot, then we're gonna need to have educated youth not having their minds corrupted by pot. Because I understand that, pot on a young mind is probably not... They're not doing studies on pot on young minds. They're doing studies on pot on adult minds. Because it's illegal to smoke pot, period. So they don't have, a pool of kids who, they're giving dabs to and checking if they can pass a math test after that. That's not happening. But we can just assume, as with alcohol, that the brain needs time to develop. Therefore, it would be best if you waited until you were 18 or 21 to use said marijuana. And besides, I saw it on Bill Nye. Bill Nye thinks pot should be legal. And he doesn't even like smoking pot. So there's that. And Bill Nye's a scientist. So there's that. So we had a little short edition of Dyze in Your House this week. This is middle of the week. I just felt like giving this to... I'll be honest with you. Here's what happened. There was a snow advisory. So I was waiting to see if my job was going to be closed tomorrow because I work in school. I work at a Catholic school. Therefore, when New York City closed public schools, I had to wait until the Archdiocese told me that Jesus says that there's going to be too much snow for me to go to work. So that's a thing. So I am off. So since I am off, I said, you know what I'm going to do? Because I love people, I'm going to give a new episode of Dyze in Your House here on Least Coast Radio. And since I focused on California, that's the West Coast, the best coast. And the East Coast be the least coast. And look at a map, and there'll be a map up on the YouTube video of this. Like, I have a map of the states that have legalized marijuana for recreational purposes, right? And you'll see a pattern, because there's Washington, Oregon, California, Nevada, and Colorado. Now, now that pattern, and Alaska. Thanks, Lisa Murkowski. And Alaska. So what does that tell you? That's all the furthest west states. So it's not like, oh, pot's legal and we can go get some here in New York. No, we can't. No, we can't. Because we're on the least coast. That's why. Best coast, west coast. East coast, least coast. Listen, I might not like some of the snobby dispositions of music taste that goes on in California, but I do love their recreational drug use. Whether it's Silicon Valley doing, what are they doing? Microdosing in Silicon Valley, or if they're legalizing recreational use of marijuana, plants that God left here. Remember, because the reason everyone says that God is the reason to do things, right? That's, Republicans say we can't do this, we can't do that because Jesus this, Jesus that. Well, this plant has been here since Jesus. It is not chemically altered. It's not scientifically, it's not cocaine. And there is no reason it should remain a Schedule 1 drug. And here's hoping that Pete Murphy delivers on his promise for New Jersey to get some recreational marijuana going. I'm Jay Porks. This has been a midweek edition of Dyze in Your House. Subscribe on iTunes at Least Coast Radio. Till Friday. Resist, remove, relinquish the laws that are stopping us from smoking recreational marijuana. Dyze in Your House.